Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're kicking off a brand new series on the channel that I'm super excited about, diving into the wonderful, weird, and surprisingly delicious world of Pan-Asian fusion cuisine. More specifically, today we're taking a crack at a recipe inspired by one sent to me by Reddit user Juno Malone for an Italian pasta carbonara that most prominently strays from its traditional carbonara origins with its inclusion of a Chinese pork lapchang sausage. For those unfamiliar, a traditional carbonara makes use of guanciale pork cheek, or here in the States, usually pancetta or bacon, which has had its fat rendered into liquid form and is then combined with spaghetti and an egg and parmesan slurry for a simple but delicious creamy pasta. Today we're going to be omitting that guanciale in favor of a Chinese lapchang sausage, then incorporating two of my very favorite forms of subtle heat, a bit of dried Tian Jin peppers and a healthy serving of Ma chili crisp oil. We'll be using this as an opportunity to take a look at the wonderful benefits of bronze die-cut pastas for their sauce cohesion, as well as some non-standard wok technique that I discovered is very important because this is literally the first time that I have ever tried to cook cheese in a wok. So, let's get into it. Okay, so kicking things off first, we're starting with our aromatic elements. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of finely minced ginger. Yes, we are committing the cardinal sin of putting garlic into a carbonara today because it will be delicious. If this is upsetting to you, you should probably leave right now because it's only going to get worse from here. Next up is our lapchang sausage here, which I started off by slicing into coins, only to realize upon my first attempt that those coin shapes are going to have a lot of trouble rendering fat. So what you actually want to do is go for a fine mince here instead, because this is going to expose all of that pork fat which is inside of our sausage casing, and allow for that fat to render out a lot easier. I'm running my knife through this until we have a nice pebbly texture, or more accurately, until I get tired of doing this, and then we're diving into our weird stuff. Diving into our egg slurry next, first up is 4 ounces, or more typically half a wedge of Parmesan Reggiano, which I'm grating through a microplane. See, look, I told you I do own a microplane, I just hate cleaning them. Remember to stop at the end of your wedge and reserve this rind bit. These are useful to throw into long-cooked sauces like a bolognese, but not edible though, so don't go and grate this part. Then next up in a separate bowl is 2 eggs plus 1 egg yolk for a bit of added richness, which I'm whisking up, then combining with my grated parm. I know, so far a pretty standard egg slurry. But next up we're adding 2 tablespoons of Ma chili crisp oil to our slurry and whisking one more time to combine to create this delicious monstrosity of an egg slurry. I'm setting this aside, then we're heading over to the stove to dive into our pasta next. Now, quick side note about pastas, today we're using bronze die-cut spaghetti. You'll generally see this noted on the package itself because the manufacturers are always excited to point this out. What it means is that when the pasta is extruded into its shape, it has been cut using a bronze die rather than a Teflon die, which is more typical in modern pasta making. The bronze die takes slightly longer to cut, which means you'll typically see these pastas cost 50 to 75 cents more per package, but the pasta that they yield has more of a texture to its surface, allowing for a better sauce cohesion to your finished dish. If you've ever had pasta where the sauce slides right off of the noodle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is totally optional, but in my opinion, it's well worth the extra 50 cents. Anyway, back over on the stove, I've got a pot of water at a rolling boil, then I'm seasoning my pasta water with about a 1/4 cup of kosher salt. This might seem like a lot of salt, but the pasta water is going to be really important in a minute. We're adding our spaghetti to the pot, then cooking to al dente, or about 1 minute shy of the package instructions. Then most importantly, before we strain our noodles, I'm reserving about 2 cups of this pasta water to be used with our sauce. Those of you familiar with Italian cooking know that this water is packed with starch from our pasta and is absolutely key to developing a creamy sauce. Without it, we're basically just making scrambled egg noodles. Once our noodles are strained, I'm swapping out my pot for my wok, and then we're getting to our lapchang next. Okay, so going into a cold wok here is my minced lapchang, which I'm gradually bringing up to medium heat over the course of about 5 minutes. Remember, we're working in a wok today, which does not have a heavy bottom to it like a frying pan does, so you'll have to manually bring up the temperature of your range here, otherwise your wok will reach temperature much too quickly and that sausage will just burn. 5 minutes later, you should be greeted by all of this glorious pork fat, which I'm removing from heat, reserving about 4 tablespoons, then adding my garlic and ginger and blooming until fragrant for about 10 seconds. Next up, I'm doing the same thing with my dried Tian Jin peppers, then followed by my spaghetti and lapchang going back in. I'm tossing this to combine, then what you want to do is lower the heat of your stove to medium-low at this point before adding that egg slurry. I know this might be the first time that I have ever said that about wok cooking, but if you leave it on high heat here, that egg slurry is going to turn into scrambled eggs real fast, like this. So over medium-low heat this time, I'm adding my egg slurry plus about 1/4 cup of that reserved pasta water. Then I'm tossing to combine and gradually adding more pasta water as needed until a thick and creamy sauce forms, courtesy of the starch in that pasta water. See, I told you that it would be important. Once a nice creamy sauce forms, I'm removing it from heat, doing my very best to make one of those fancy pasta nests, and we're ready to eat. Alright, so I'll admit this one was pretty unusual for me. I, for one, have both never used lapchang in this fashion before, and also have never made a carbonara like this before. That said though, holy shit is this good. The Tian Jin peppers and lao gan ma bring a really nice subtle heat to the dish that's not too overwhelming, and complements our creamy sauce base really nicely. The lapchang is packed with aromatic spices that release during that 5-minute fat rendering, almost like a shortcut to deliciousness. You'll also notice that our bronze die-cut pasta is working wonders today and really helping both the lapchang and the chili crisp stick to that pasta for a nice balanced bite. If you're looking for some new ideas to incorporate for dinner and don't mind insulting both Italian and Chinese grandmas everywhere, this is going to be a great one to take a shot at. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. Despite my 2 failed attempts while I was testing out this recipe, this was actually a fairly quick meal to throw together once I figured out how to make Italian pasta in a wok. We'll be cooking through this one live this coming Tuesday at 6:30 PST right here on the YouTube channel, so tune in then and cook along with me if you want. For the Bay Area locals, the Woo Can Cook Fried Rice pop-up shop is back at the Hayward Farmers Market tomorrow afternoon, so swing by and come say hi if you can. More about that at woocancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Everybody wants to be the baby. And you're dying if you think that you don't know. Never mind, that you still don't.